Pudgy Penguins is the success story of this month. It's now the top meme coin on the Solana chain in terms of market cap. The question is, how much longer can this rally last? Is the risk to reward still worth it? Let's have a look at the on-chain metrics, the data most people are not looking at. Now in the last month, the Pengu token more than doubled. It went up by 122% and now we are at 3.5 cents. Can it double in the next month again? That's the big question of this video. Pengu is now the largest meme coin on the Solana chain with a market cap of 2.2 billion. It's larger than Bonk, it's larger than the official Trump token, and it's also larger than Fartcoin. When we look at the entire crypto space though, Pengu is not the largest, of course. That position goes to Dogecoin with a market cap of 31 billion. Dogecoin is its own blockchain. There are some ported, bridged versions to other chains. But when we look at meme coin tokens that are traded on other chains, Shiba Inu and Pepe is larger than Pengu. So to beat Pepe, Pudgy Penguins would have to make a 2x from here. To beat Shiba Inu, it would need to do a 4x from here. Now, is this a realistic target? The answer is it depends, because we can compare how much capital is available on Ethereum versus on Solana. The Ethereum total value locked, so how much capital is in decentralized finance on Ethereum, is at 82 billion. Compare this to Solana, here we are at a bit under 10 billion. So Ethereum has roughly 8 times more capital. When we compare market caps, then Ethereum's market cap is a bit under 5 times the market cap of Solana. And so it only makes sense that Pudgy Penguins is at its current size, right? 5 times the Pengu token would bring the market cap to 11 billion. Shiba Inu isn't even at 11 billion. So relative to the market caps of the chains or to the decentralized finance total value locked of the chains, Pengu is already higher than Pepe and Shiba Inu. Now this is not the first video on Pudgy Penguins on this channel. I publish videos regularly over here and the attention is changing. The very first video was published 234 days ago and that video outperformed the average video. The average video is here in gray and that particular first video on Pengu is the line in blue. So there was quite a bit of attention at the very beginning. The recent video, however, is just performing according to average. So now the blue line is within the gray zone. Most traffic now comes from search, but those search queries don't come from the on-chain trading activity. Because on the Solana chain, the Pengu token is not among the trending tokens when we look at the largest tokens ordered by liquidity. Fartcoin is much larger, followed by Pump, followed by Aura. Pudgy Penguins only had a bit over 3,000 wallets interacting with the token in the last 24 hours, while there are more than 500,000 holders on chain. So the activity on chain really declined. And so there's a clear mismatch between the numbers of holders on chain versus the price activity. Now we see here in the background, that's the number of retail investors versus whale investors over time. The way we make this distinction is by looking at how many tokens are currently held in a particular wallet. To be counted for the chart on the left, a wallet has to hold at least 30,000 Pengu tokens. At the current price, that's a bit under $1,000. For the chart in the middle, it's 300,000 tokens or $10,000. For the chart on the right, it's $100,000. So you can see a lot of adoption at the very beginning, the first weeks after launch, and that's across all wallet cohorts. And then the excitement died down, again, across all wallet cohorts. But the price of Pengu relative to Solana did not just die down. Yes, at the beginning there was profit taking, but then came the massive rally of 500%. This is now Pengu relative to Solana. It's not just Pengu in US dollars, but the US dollar chart does look quite similar. And so that then begs the question, right? When the number of holders on chain is not going up and when the activity on chain is quite low and when Pengu is not a trending token on the Solana chain, where does this rally come from? Because answering this question could bring us nearer to the answer, whether or not Pengu can still continue to go up from here. The trading volume has clearly shifted. Initially it was all on-chain, then it died down. Now there's still a little bit on-chain activity. This is the trading volume in US dollars, but it's nowhere near compared to what happened in the early days. The nature of the demand for Pudgy Penguins has shifted from on-chain on Solana to the spot markets on the centralized exchanges and also the perpetual futures on the centralized exchanges. In the last 24 hours, we saw 112 million worth of trading volume on Binance alone. That's on the spot market again. On the perpetual futures market, we saw more trading volume. We saw 287 million. Here's the funding rate of the Pengu token over time. So how much do people pay in funding to bet on rising or on falling prices on the perpetual futures market? If this is negative, the shorts have to pay the longs in order to bet on falling prices. So that's when the perpetual futures traders are very bearish. Most people bet on falling prices. When this is very green, most people are very bullish. And we can see when there's a lot of bearishness, when most people are willing to pay for falling prices, we tend to see a short squeeze. We tend to see the price going up. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that counterintuitive? Wouldn't we expect that when the smart perpetual futures traders, when they bet on falling prices, that then the price should also as per tendency go down? Why don't we see that? I believe it is potentially also price manipulation. So say the people that have a lot of the token supply or that have a lot of capital, they can move the price around in any direction. And when the funding rates are deeply negative, there's an incentive for the market makers to buy up the token supply. First of all, to induce a short squeeze, but also to collect those funding rates. Just have a look at how much the shorts got liquidated during the Pengu rally. There were liquidations on both sides because of the increased volatility, but the shorts got liquidated much more than the longs on average. In other words, the market tends to move in the direction of maximum pain, where most people get liquidated, where most people lose money, and so capital concentrates towards a few players and it goes away from the people that aren't as skilled. Right? Crypto is both a game of luck and skill, and the more it's been played, the more the capital concentrates towards the people that know more than the average. I'm actually quite surprised that recently there is not more short interest, that the funding rate isn't much more negative than it currently is. It tends to hover around the zero line, and that's all happening while the trading volume in Pengu on the perpetual futures is going down. And there is a quite strong correlation between trading volume on the perps and the spot price. Right? When there is more trading volume, the price tends to be high. When there's less trading volume, the price tends to be low. So when the trading volume goes down, we should expect the Pengu price also to go down. But people aren't yet betting on that decline of Pengu. Betting on falling prices of Pudgy penguins is currently a contrarian bet. Most people don't expect that, despite the data suggesting otherwise. The data, in my opinion, suggests that there's a high likelihood that Pengu goes down from here. The same effect can be seen for the open interest, right? How many bets are currently on the price? If many people bet on the Pengu price, then the price tends to be higher. When there's less interest in Pengu and there's less bets on the perpetual futures, then the price tends to be lower. And the bets on Pudgy penguins topped on the 23rd of July and since then tend to decline. And so again, this is another sign that the Pengu price is likely going to not perform that well. One could see the current price level as being more or less an invisible ceiling. And maybe Pengu is going to oscillate around that average price, which is here the dotted line. And maybe it will be very hard for Pudgy penguins to rise further, just because the market cap is already that large. It's the largest of the meme coins on the Solana chain. It's also large within the Solana chain, right? Relative to the market cap of Solana and relative to the total value locked on Solana. If you compare that to Ethereum, Pengu is much larger than, say, Shiba Inu. And on top of that, we've got this sword of Damocles hanging over Pengu, the potential unlocks that start at the beginning of next year. Now, I don't have a crystal ball either, and I don't know what the market manipulators are going to do with Pudgy penguins, but I do know that they have the potential to dump on the market. Currently, the market cap of Pengu is very high. It's unlikely that it's going to make a 10x from here. Could it potentially double? Nobody knows. It would be expensive, of course, for the heavyweights to push it further up. But if the interest in betting on falling prices increases further and further, then we might see a secondary short squeeze. Currently, we don't see that interest though. Currently, betting on falling prices of Pudgy penguins is a contrarian bet. And I tend to be a contrarian. I always always want to be the minority of market participants. I don't want to do what everybody else is doing because most people tend to lose and just a few people tend to win in this player versus player game. Now here's the problem with the crypto space. Everybody talks about the next 10 or 100x returns with the next small meme coin, but the issue is if you bought any of those assets that are recommended in those videos, you very likely lost money. And that's simply because returns are concentrated in just a few winners. The vast majority of altcoins loses all the time. And this is all just preying on your emotions, preying on your greed. I'm trying to go a different route with this channel. I'm trying to figure out what are strategies that long-term make money, where we don't just pick the needle in the haystack, but where actually statistics are in our favor. You might have seen my analysis on moving averages, right? How the best simple moving average for Bitcoin is the 120-day. So we should buy Bitcoin whenever the price is above the 120-day SMA, and we should potentially sell it when it's below. So that's this line over here, the line in turquoise. I've been talking about this regularly on this channel, and it helped me very well to time the market, to be out when there's potentially a correction, and to be heavily invested whenever we are in a bull run. And so we get those back-tested results, but that's a problem, right? It's a back test. It's a simulation of how well did this thing work in the past, but there's not necessarily a guarantee that it works in the future as well. And then there are those other counterintuitive approaches, right? Where we don't try to buy the one altcoin that outperforms, but we rather bet on altcoins doing worse because of all of the expanding supply. I talk about this all the time on this channel as well. So for example here, right, this is Balancer, which had a very extensive supply expansion, and that then leads to Balancer going down over time. And then we also talk about how can we potentially reduce the risk that we don't get stopped out during those temporary rallies of 100%. And then we talk about potential relative valuation trades, right? Balancer relative to Ethereum, for example, underperforms more consistently, so we can bet on that going down long term. I made money with this regularly. And so this is then where it gets from simulation to actual performance. I personally have made money with relative valuation bets for a long time now. Almost 4 years, it's 46 months. And had I just dollar cost averaged into Bitcoin, I would have gotten this light gray line here as return. But because I also bet on very poorly performing altcoins to do worse than Bitcoin, I got the performance here in black. And so we don't just have a simulation, we also have actual returns. But again, that's just me, and that's not showing it live. And so I went one step further. I opened up a portfolio of 2.5 months of relative valuation bets, where I showed the members of this channel, what do I bet on? Where do I go long? Where do I go short? And over 2.5 months, that portfolio made 50%. So I started with roughly 40K and then ended up with roughly 60K. But then again, it's just myself again sharing my performance, sharing my trading. It doesn't necessarily mean that you can achieve the same as well. I'm trying to be much more transparent than all of those other YouTubers. I try to share strategies that genuinely work. I'm not pumping and dumping based on any money that I got from any crypto project. I never take any money from any crypto project, but still this is just myself trading. And so this is then 3 weeks ago where I went one step further, where I changed something, where I said, okay, I'm ready to take money into a capital pool. I execute the trades, and then you get the exact same performance that I get. All the negatives, all the positives. And over the time, we are already in profit. We are now at 4.7% in profit. I started out with my own money with 100K, and various members also deposited quite a bit of capital. And so I was wondering, how can I provide most value? For the people that have a lot of time, but not yet that much capital, they should be able to learn those strategies, those relative valuation bets relatively quickly. They should be able to make money very fast. And that's what all those tutorial videos are for, right? There's a lot of tutorial videos in premium. Feel free to just binge watch all of this. There are 2 main videos that are absolutely essential. So that's using perpetual futures on Hyperliquid to bet on relative valuations. And it's this one over here, risk management with relative valuation bets. Because if you don't manage your risk, then using perpetual futures is a bad idea. So when you've got some time, but you don't have that much capital yet, then the monthly membership for 125 is for you. That's just for you to learn all the different steps. I share my own trades as well. You can copy trade me. I will also share my favorite trade with you. So in case that favorite trade will not make money in the next month, then I will also refund you the $125 per month. So it's basically risk-free for you to enter this membership. But in case you don't have time to do the copy trading, in case you don't want to watch the tutorial, then you should probably go with yearly, because over here you get access to the automated copy trading, where we are so far in profit with 4.7%. And while I cannot guarantee that this will continue to stay a profitable strategy, I feel quite confident executing this for the members. Again, because I have very positive experience with that for the last 4 years. And it's not just because of random bets, because I got lucky with a small meme coin that 100x'd. It's because we use the market structure to our advantage, right? When the early investors and the team cash out, when they dump the price because the supply is expanding, then we make money at the same time. We basically flip a chart like this, so that it looks like this. This is the kind of performance we are looking for. And so for the annual members, there is the copy trading mechanism. You just have to watch a single video, 18 minutes in length. It shows how to send the money to that pool. The average deposit is around $13,000. So if you only have a few $100, then the annual membership is probably not for you if you just do this for the copy trading. But if you've got 5,000, 10,000, potentially more to deploy into a risk-on strategy, then feel free to check it out. If it's your first time here, feel free to subscribe. I publish videos regularly. A like would be very much appreciated as well. It helps the channel grow. See you next time on YouTube or see you in Premium. Cheers!